Dude, something's going on. I'm trying to figure out with the stream, and I don't know what it is. So let me see if I could figure this out. Um, what the hell happened here, guys? Oh man, oh man. All right. So something happened with my stream, dude. I've been streaming for like 28 minutes, but for some reason in OBS Studio, I don't know why I never had to do this before. I guess whenever I hit broadcast and stream, there was another button that says go live. So it showed that it looks like it's streaming. It shows like to be streaming, but I guess because I did not hit the go live button, I really wasn't streaming, which sucks because all I've been talking for like 30 minutes now, and all the time I've been talking, I just realized I wasn't even streaming. The only reason why I realized is because I saw no activity on my analytics. Like not even one person has even viewed at all the stream. And I was like, that seems kind of odd. Normally I get at least somebody, right? And for me to have zero, and then I noticed there was no video images. There's like nothing happening. I was like, yeah, that's not right. So then I see why. Dude, I'm telling you, man, these damn updates, man. They try to get very fancy, like to add these features, but it's like, dude, it should be. You're giving me an option to start broadcast and stream. I should be able to hit start broadcast and stream, and that's it. It starts, not, you know, it starts, but then on top of that, there's another button I have to click on to actually go live. Like, dude, come on, man. That sucks. So again, guys, let me start from the beginning again, man. So I've been streaming. So those of you who are just coming in, I've been streaming for like 30 minutes and just realized it has not even been broadcasting for 30 minutes. So all the talking I've been doing been for nothing, pretty much, man. Nevertheless, guys, man, it's Thursday, so it's that time of the day for our Thursday night stream. Um, and we've got a few things we're going to talk about. Hopefully, y'all guys are doing good, man. Y'all have been having a good week. My week has been busy, really good, man. So, again, I actually enjoy my weeks, man. My Monday through Fridays, I actually enjoy a lot. Um, just because I feel like I'm able to be productive, get things done. So for me, that's very enjoyable, man. Being productive and getting things done. Either way, guys, um, something before we start, on the topic that I wanted to discuss. Tomorrow, which is Friday, I have my giveaway stream. So I'm going to be streaming on Twitch and Kick. Give me a follow if you can on Twitch. So it does require you to follow me on Twitch to join the giveaway. I need to work. There's something I'm going to work out on Kick to see for Kick to participate as well. But nevertheless, for now, you follow me on Twitch. That's all that matters. I'm going to be giving away some products tomorrow on my stream. I'm going to be streaming at 8 p.m. through 1 a.m. tomorrow, right? 8 p.m. Central, 1 a.m. time. I'm going to be giving away a keyboard, mouse, some Elgato, some Govee lighting, some different items. So again, man, go ahead and join the stream. Maybe you can win something. Obviously, if you're a follower of mine, I would like for y'all to join and try to win something. Also, here in my YouTube channel, I am going to be giving away a Mac Studio once we hit 10K. So once we hit that 10K subscribers here on YouTube, so go tell your friends, whoever you know, colleagues, give me a follow, man, give me some likes. That'll help me out, obviously. But once we hit the 10K, I'm going to be giving away that will be the giveaway, right? So, and it's going to be to a follower, somebody who's subscribed to my channel. So that's going to be the qualifications to win that. So again, guys, now that we talked about that, and now I'm going to start all over again because I've been talking for like 30 minutes and just realized had not even been broadcasting, which is kind of sucks, but it is what it is. So the topic that I wanted to discuss, there's a few things, but one of the things we're going to discuss is where do weak software developers work? So I came across um, this post, and it was interesting, right? There's a lot of interesting posts that I come across, but this one specific is kind of going over where do weak software developers work, right? And I find it very interesting, man, because it almost makes it seem, or maybe whoever asked this question has this belief that every software developer out there is not weak. They're strong. They know what they're doing. I'm assuming by weak they means in the sense of knowledge, uh, or contribution, perhaps. Again, I don't know what their definition of weak is when it comes to this, but assuming it's something like that. Um, but one thing I would say though is any position that exists out there, man. I don't care if you're a warehouse employee. I don't care if you work at UPS. I don't care if you're part of the Ford union, work for Ford, you're a union. It doesn't matter what it is, dude. I don't care if you work in construction, you build bridges, you're a software developer, you're an engineer, whatever, dude. It doesn't matter. I have come to realize and notice that every single role that's out there, position, departments that are out there, there's a handful of. So the rule of thumb is 20% of the employees make up for eight. They do 80% of the work. Keep that in mind. 20-80, right? 20% employees do 80% of the work. Let's just apply that if you happen to be a part of a department and in tech, and everybody, you have 10 software developers in your team. That's pretty much saying that 20%, two of those guys on the team, are doing 80% of the work, right? And just take it from a statistics standpoint, and ultimately the other 8 guys are doing 20%. And again, that's kind of maybe a little bit more, not realistic when you're dealing with small departments. But obviously, with the bigger departments, become more realistic, right? You got 100 employees, 20% of the, let's say, software engineers, are doing the majority of the work, while the other 80 are not doing so much, as an example. But that is true, man. And I have seen that, at least to my experience, I have seen that in different companies that I have worked at. And I've all wondered why. Like, why is that the case? Why don't companies let go of the weak ones, right? Obviously, why do they deal with that, like, just average type work? And I remember having a discussion with the CEO of one of the companies that I worked at. It was a small company, so obviously it was a little bit more easier to like have a discussion with the CEO compared to a big company. But the company probably had like 200 employees, as an example. And I remember having a discussion with them, like, hey, wouldn't it be beneficial, or wouldn't it be better if we were to get rid of all the weak employees, right? Again, the weak employees that we identify, the weak, get rid of all of them, and then go ahead and hire high performers. And I remember him telling me, like, that may sound good on paper. That may seem like the best approach, but what's going to happen is you need a lot of these average and below average employees. So of course, and at that time, I was like, well, what do you mean you need? Like, why you don't need low performing employees? Like that's crazy talk, right? That's kind of the way I was looking at it. Like, dude, that's crazy talk. And but then he started explaining there's work out there that's very repetitive, very tedious, very boring, right? And you need, in those cases, you need people that's going to do it. And that is where your below average to average employees come in. Give them that kind of work. A lot of them will be pleased to do it because they don't have to think. It just do. Very repetitive. You just doing. Don't have to think much. You know, in the software in the software world, you call them code monkeys. There's different word names that people have for those kind of developers, right? Like they're not considered engineers. They're just considered just literally coders, right? They're just coding, whether they even understand what they're doing or not. But hey, they're just coding, pushing out code. That's it. They're not designing anything. They're not architecting anything. They're just coding, as an example. Nevertheless, though, you need these kind of people, right? Like you do need these people, and that's kind of where that came to be, right? That's kind of where he mentioned that to me, and I was like, okay, kind of makes sense, I guess. And like, yeah, you need these people. They need, like, as a business, to operate. If you had nothing but elite people, the elite people, they're not going to do that. They're going to eventually leave. They're going to find something that's more fulfilling, more productive, like challenging, right? And that makes total sense because me personally, I feel like I have always gone above and beyond. I always try to, I'm one of those individuals where I look back in the past, and anytime I was learning something new, I used to take that home with me and then continue to expand my knowledge after hours, right? On the weekends, things of that nature. And that's something that most people are not going to do or not wanting to do, and that's totally fine, right? I'm not saying they have to, but that's just the reality. Um, but if you have people that are very elite, right? You want to call, fall in that bucket. They don't want to do repetitive, boring work. They want to be challenged. They want to do hard work. They want to, again, use their brain. There is an aspect of it, right, that's enjoyable to them, and I know that firsthand because it's enjoyable to me as well. But that is one of those deals where, how can I say it, that it's kind of one of the reasons why it's going to be very rare that you have strictly elite um, employees. Now, obviously, you got places like, let's say, for example, hold on, guys, what's going on here? All right, my bad, guys, my bad. But obviously, you got certain companies like Google and Apple that are able to get a little bit more top talent, so you're gonna have a better pool. But to say that everybody there is not weak, again, it varies, right? When I have never worked in Google, but what I have heard from other people is even though Google being as big as they are, there's a lot of non-important work being done, development being done, right? Just trying to test something new and then just scrap it, and nothing ever gets implemented, things of that nature. Um, which means you're gonna have opportunity. There are gonna be times that somebody was a good interviewer, you hire them, they're not that good, but as long as they're doing the bare minimum, that's probably good enough to keep them, not to let them go. And then obviously they could fall through the crack and stay there long enough, they will have a career there. And most likely they're probably to some degree some of the ones that stay there long term. Because it's like, well, why am I going to go somewhere else if you are a weak engineer? Like, if I was a weak engineer, a lazy engineer, whatever, category you want to put me in, I would probably try to go under the radar, try to milk it as long as I can. And if I could stay at a big tech company getting paid $250,000, 300,000, whatever it is per year, and do that for 10 years, dude, assuming that you were wise with your money and invested, even if you get fired after that, who cares? You got your bag, and set on off sunset. But again, depending on what their definition of weak means, one thing I would say though, you are going to have in general in any environment, even the software developers, employees that are going to be average and below average employees. Unicorns are like almost non-existing, but you do have high performers, and you're gonna have a good amount of high performers. And when I say a good amount, I mean more from a sense of, again, 20-80 rule. 20% gonna be your high performers that are gonna do the majority of the work, while the rest are just doing average to below average work. Simple as that, guys. Simple as that. And software development is not an exception either. You're gonna see those patterns in software development roles as well. So that's something to keep in mind. And you got to keep in mind, if you're basing week on productivity, right? Like, hey, I could do something in an hour, but it takes him a whole day to do. That's pretty much saying that you could do 8 times faster than him. That means you could potentially do 8 times more work than he does. And if that is the case, he is way underperforming. Now, on the flip side, if that person that could do it in an hour has 15 years of experience and knows everything very well because he's been doing it for so many years and has things memorized and all that stuff, that's one of the reasons why experience becomes very beneficial, right? So it has a lot of time. It may not have necessarily to do with their week. It just could be you're comparing a senior with a junior, and a senior with many years of actual experience in a specific subject. Yeah, they're gonna run laps around another individual. But from a general standpoint, you're gonna have weak software developers, and honestly, some of these guys, you kind of need. They may do the grunt work. They may do the very tedious, tasks that you may not want to do, right? Maybe there's a lot of bug fixes. Let them handle that kind of crap, right? While you, the more, if you're the more elite or the more high performer employee, right? You work on new projects, right? You're designing stuff from scratch, things of that nature. Those are more exciting than just servicing tickets and fixing bugs, and that's it. So think of it that way, man. For those reasons, you're always going to have it. It's okay that there's weak software developers because you do need some of these guys, and you want them. They are needed at the end of the day. And this exists, how I mentioned, guys, in every position that exists. You're going to have weak people, right? When I say weak, I look at it as average and below average employees. It's going to happen, man. I don't care if it's construction worker, software developer, warehouse worker, whatever it is. You're going to have that. So that's just something to keep in mind. So now let's switch on to another subject. And this other subject that I wanted to talk about is, why would a company use Python as its main language, right? So again, damn, I closed a window that I was not trying to close. Ooh, give me 1 second, guys. 1 second. All right. Cool. So what I was trying to, the point I was trying to get here to is, why would a company use Python as their main language? So, and here's the thing: replace Python with either other language, right? Why would a company use Ruby? Why would a company use JavaScript as their main language? Why would a company use PHP? Right? Let's just stick with those four right now. But I say Python because I do feel Python gets a very bad rap. Obviously, the main thing that comes to Python, and again, I think honestly the main reason for this is because Python is very popular. Anytime something's popular, you're gonna be the one gonna get picked on, dude. That's a rule of thumb. If you're not popular, nobody's gonna pick on you. But if you're popular, you're gonna get picked on. Simple as that, dude. So that's a good thing, right? They're picking on Python. Nevertheless, why would a company use Python as its main language? And there's a few reasons why, right? One reason could be there has been work already done within the organization that is developed in Python. So because it's already been developed in Python and you don't want to convert this code over to another language that maybe is more high performance, like C# or Java or Go or Rust or whatever, C++, if there's no need to do that because it performs good enough, right? Where the job's being done, everything's being done at a very reasonable rate. That is going to be the reason why you want to keep legacy code as is, which means you're going to hire somebody with that skill set to manage your legacy code. If it happens to be Python, manage it in Python. And then obviously, when new work comes up, they could continue to level up it in Python. And you do that because now you just need one programmer, right, to know one language. Compared to if you were to say, you know what, leave the legacy code be Python, but all the future code we're gonna do in Rust. What's gonna happen now? You're gonna have two different code bases you're gonna have to manage, languages you're gonna have to manage. And if you hire somebody that's a Rust, let me put it this way. Let's say you hire somebody who's a Python developer, and you need them for the legacy code, but now you're expecting them to work on some new projects, and it's not Python, it's Rust. Some developers are not going to be able to do it. Some developers could learn. Obviously, you could learn a new language, but man, they may not be able to help out to the level that you want. Right? They may be slow. The work is not going to be as fast because they got to learn. They're learning the new language. There are some people, man, I will tell you right now, that struggle on learning another language. They may be real good on that one language they know, but dude, they're gonna struggle learning another language. And part of the struggle is because they may not have a desire to want to learn a new language. So those are some of the issues you're gonna have, right, with related to that. Um, so one reason could be there's already legacy code in place, and you want to use you want that language of the legacy code to continue on even with the newer projects. So like that, you just have one developer that could technically work on legacy and the newer projects as well, because it's all under one language. Python, as an example, right? 'Cause we're talking about Python in this case, is very popular. Again, how I mentioned, when you're popular, you're gonna get picked on. It is very popular. It's actually being taught in universities as well and things of that nature, right? So because it's very popular, you could find a lot of people that know the language, which means when it comes to staffing for that language, you're not going to have an issue. Let me put it this way. JavaScript is a perfect example, dude. We all know JavaScript is for web. Can you use it for non-web? You can. You can use it for back-end server stuff. But at the end of the day, we all know JavaScript and web applications, they go hand in hand. I get it. We use frameworks nowadays, React, Vue.js, Angular, and so on. At the end of the day, though, it's still the core of it is JavaScript. It goes hand in hand with web development, right? So knowing that if you're going to be building a web app, um, you're looking for somebody with that core skill set, right? JavaScript, as an example, right? Um, but the point I was trying to make is there's a lot of developers out there that knows that language um, very well. So the shortage is like non-existing. It compared to, let's say you're trying to find a C++ guy. Even though there are a lot of C++ guys out there, I can tell you right now though, there's way more JavaScript developers out there that you could find, whether maybe for cheap or reasonable rate, compared to a C++ guy. There are a lot of guys out there, but they may be very picky on what they want to do, and then depends on what type of work they have history working on, because maybe they worked on systems like hardware, so creating operating systems on actual hardware to work. So that's a whole different beast, right, of programming. But nevertheless, again, you're gonna struggle to find somebody, in that language. Where again, I'm gonna pick Python because it's very popular and it's very diverse, right? Machine learning, AI, web development, right? API development. The list goes on. It's used for pipelines, data pipelines a lot. Data transformation. Dude, it's used for a lot, and because of it, if you need to hire somebody to do some API development, you're not going to have an issue finding somebody with a Python background to do that work for you. If you're going to hire somebody when it comes to web development, And obviously, I'm talking about more back end, not front end. You know, you could use Flask or Django framework, and again, you're not going to have issues on finding somebody that knows a Python programming language and knows how to use the Django or Flask framework. There's a lot of people out there that know it, and they know it very well. Um, let's say you need somebody to do some statistical models for you on your data. Again, you're gonna be able to find somebody with Python. A lot easier, I feel like, compared to some of these other languages where, yeah, C sharp, you could easily find, I think, a pretty good amount of developers out there to do some web development, or maybe even other stuff, obviously, desktop apps. There's some other stuff you can as well, but there's some stuff that may be a little bit tough to find. You know, you're trying to find somebody to do some statistical models for you in C sharp. I think you're gonna struggle to find somebody compared to somebody that has a Python background, as an example, right? So it just kind of depends. The language is very easy, I feel like, Python, and I think it gets a lot of hate because of that. A lot of people call it's a toy language, right? And it's like, okay, it's a toy that is being used today, whether people like to admit it or not. It's being used today in production environments that's able to handle millions of transactions at once. It is, again, whether people want to admit it or not. It is. I know Netflix. At least I know they used to. I don't know if they still do, but their API was using Python for their APIs. And again, anybody who knows about Netflix know they have many users, millions of users, and so people that are using it, as you're scrolling down, it's calling all these APIs to kind of feed all the images and the categories of the videos. And again, Python, right? Google, when it first got started, it was using Python for the search. Now it makes sense. Google became very popular where Python just couldn't handle it, so they end up switching right to another language. But nevertheless, though, they did what I feel, which is a smart thing. You build a app, whatever it is that you're building, in the language that you're comfortable with, and sometimes it's going to be a slow language like Python, and that's what they did. When you get to the point where now you have reached the max abilities of that language. Maybe the language can handle millions of requests, but it cannot handle hundreds or even billions of requests. You gotta move on, right? And that's what they did. Um, but it got them started, and at one point it was handling millions of requests. It just could not handle tens of hundreds of millions of requests per second, and that's what they needed to expand and go to another language. Um, but again, though, those are examples, and there's many other web applications out there, man. Like major websites, web applications that are using Django framework, Flask for API, their APIs at the back end. The list goes on and on. A lot of people won't admit it because it's like, no, that's a toy language. In their mind, I would never use that. It's for mocking or prototyping only. But it's like, okay, you could feel that way, and that's totally fine. But what I'm telling you, which is a fact, is there are applications today, and not just today, that have been out there for years already, that are able to handle millions of users in a given time, are able to process millions of transactions, they're able to handle millions of API requests. The list goes on, and they're doing it, and they've been doing it for years, and they're still doing it to this day. So I get it. Everybody that builds an app, they're like, I'm going to prototype in Python, but I'm going to actually build it using Go or Rust or whatever from our back, because they're thinking that I need something very, very fast. But in the same time, I don't know if people realize most applications, again, most web applications that are being created every day and published every week do not and are not going to have millions and billions of users or transactions occurring a day. They're just not, man. I get it. Everybody has the pipe dream, like, hey, I'm building the next TikTok, the next Facebook that's going to require, you know, that's, you know, is going to be very resource bound because of the amount of active users coming and using my platform. So they're trying to like be prepared for that and build the app to be very optimal. But I'm like, no, pick the language that's quick and easy for you to develop, get it out there. And then you know what? If your application blows up to that level where you really have tens of hundreds of millions of active users in a given time, you know what? The way I look at it is that that's good. That means your application, you're at a point you could probably go raise funding now, because you got, if you have that many users, there's no reason for you not to be able to raise capital, right? And raising, get money from investors and to expand and build your platform, because that's a lot of users, man. But what I'm saying is that 99.99% of the applications being built every day, published every week, are never going to see that activity. They may see hundreds of transactions a day. They may see thousands, tens of thousands, which is normal. Some may even see millions, but that's it, dude. That's probably the peak of the what most are going to see. Very, very few are going to see tens of hundreds of millions or even billions of transactions a day. The only ones that do that is your popular ones, right? Your Google, your Facebook, your TikTok, these other platforms, your Twitter, and so forth. There's not many applications that are ever going to have that much activity. They're just not, man. Even though people want to believe that their app is going to be to that level, so they want to scale and be prepared. But it's like, I think that's where you gotta have a business mindset. Be like, develop something quick, fast, deploy it, and then see you have the market field, and then if the market likes it, they'll buy it. You'll get a little bit of revenue, but you're not gonna need to scale anytime soon, or change your language to a faster language anytime soon. That's for sure. And then the last thing, guys, we want to talk about is what coding is coding better on a Mac than Windows and Linux, right? That's the question. Is coding on a Mac better, keyword better, on Mac than Windows and Linux? And here's my thoughts on this, because I don't know, those of y'all who may not be aware of, but I'll let you know. I'll tell you right now. So let me kind of show you better yet. So I have this old laptop, okay? HP, it's about 11 years old, running Linux on it, okay? I use this laptop to do some coding, terminal, VS Code, pretty much it. Very basic stuff. Dude, it runs smooth as butter, no issues, none of that stuff. Old computer, dude, 12-year-old computer, so no problems at all, and it runs smooth because, again, it's running Linux, right? So if you look behind me, my computer back, you kind of see right there, I have a Mac Studio. So I do have a Mac, and I use that. That is my workstation, right? So I do coding on there as well, but I do other stuff as well, right? Create some documents, write documents, email. I use Office 365, so obviously I have Outlook, I have Word, Excel. I look at data in Excel and things of that nature as well, documents, and so forth. So I don't just code only. I do other stuff. Then also on that machine, I do have Parallel Desktop, which is a VM, and I run Windows on it because there's some applications that are very Windows specific, like SSMS, Power BI Desktop, things of that nature. So I install those in the Windows, VM. So ultimately, right in that machine, I'm able to have everything, have all my apps that I use on Mac, and then I have the VM for the other applications. Before, it's kind of hard to tell, but I have two computers over here on the side, and then maybe let me just show you. I guess let me point my camera over, Boom, right there. One computer, then I have another computer. Damn, my fingers pointing all over the place. So computer number one, computer number two, right? So those two computers that I have right there, um, one of them used to be my workstation before I got the Mac Studio, and I had a Linux on it, right? I was using Linux. I actually have Pop OS, which was my OS. I liked it a lot, and one thing I would say when it came to coding, right? Coding specifically, no issues, no complaints. Everything worked precise, awesome. Everything. There's nothing bad I could say related to that. Okay. Where I did have issues, right? This is where I did have issues. So no, so keep in mind on that Linux machine, I did have a VM and I did have Windows installed on it. So again, goes back, Power BI Desktop, SSMS, things of that nature, right? Very Windows specific applications, I had them installed there. So same thing, I could use those, no problem. Because it was my workstation and I did use it for other stuff as well, there were some shortcomings that I had to deal with. For example, when it came to email, yeah, there's applications that you could get, but I'm not gonna lie. Outlook on Mac, dude, is awesome, dude. Like I have no complaints. I actually enjoy it a lot, like a lot. It's very the UI is clean. It actually looks better in my mind than the Windows UI. But nevertheless, things just work. It's not buggy. Sometimes with Windows Outlook, I feel it could be kind of buggy. Not on the Mac, dude. Everything just works so smooth. No complaints. No complaints, dude. What else? On Linux, you could have Microsoft Teams. So I did have Microsoft Teams installed, so no issue there. But obviously, you don't have everything else like Word, Excel, and again, I know some of y'all gonna say, well, yeah, you have there's the other version, right? The open source version of that. No, it's not the same, dude. I'm sorry, it's not the same. It looks very old from a UI standpoint. And plus, Excel, sometimes there was data model that I was analyzing, so I put in Power Query and do some other stuff. Can't do that in the other one. So again, that's why, and then obviously I manage all of my files I keep in the cloud, right? Because I have a team. Sometimes they're working on the same files, when they're working on them, some documentation, whatever it is. So everything's saved in a SharePoint site. And again, with Mac and Windows, you could have in your file, you could have shortcuts that ultimately are linked to your OneDrive account and also SharePoint account. So you just like open it up like any normal folder, and then you have access to all the files in there. Can't do that in Mac. And my bad, not Mac. You can't do that in Linux. So I literally have to go to the browser. It's not the same, right? If I open up a file, it literally opens up in the browser. Sometimes I don't want it in the browser. I want it to open up on my desktop. Little nuances like that. That is where the Mac filled that void. It kind of gave me the tool that I needed from a business standpoint, right? Which is emails and Word and Excel and some of the other applications. Also, there were some tools that I used that only existed either on Mac and Windows, not on Linux. Like one of them was a database management tool that I love a lot. I'll share it on another video. And the one thing about it, Mac version of it, because it's built, the website talks about it, it's built natively for Mac, but it's also built natively for Windows. But on Mac, dude, it's so smooth like butter, dude. That application is so instant, no lag, no nothing, dude. And I love it because when I'm working on stuff, I want things to be rapid. But there's no version of it. Well, let me rephrase it. There is a version, but it's a beta version for Linux, and it's crap, dude. It's crap. So obviously, the version that I have to use in that case is the one on Windows. So anytime I need to use it, I need to go to my VM and use it that way. And it just wasn't. I had to do a lot of workarounds. But if I was doing coding, keyword here, coding and coding only, then Linux would have been my operating system. I would have stayed with Linux, no issues at all, dude. Everything's smooth as butter. How I mentioned, 12-year-old computer, dude, running Linux, smooth as butter. Actually, more. I think like a 13-year-old computer um, is running Linux right now, dude. I could code on this machine, no problem at all. And then obviously the two machines that I'm streaming on right now, that I just showed you, those have Windows. Then of course I have a server rack. You can't really see it. If I maybe move over, you can see it. The server rack over here, over here. So either way, in that server rack, I do have an Ubuntu server over there, then a NAS and some other stuff. But either way, I use all three operating systems. I really, really like Linux. Um, and one of the main reasons why I like it so much is because I could build my own computer. You can't do that with Mac. You're kind of limited, right? You're stuck to their hardware and their whatever. With a Linux machine, it runs smooth as butter, right? Very smooth. But I could always upgrade. I could add more RAM. I could swap hard drives. I could upgrade, CPU, GPU, all that stuff. Which I think it's awesome, right? I enjoyed that because sometimes I need more RAM. It'd be awesome to upgrade. You can't do that in Mac. So that's the thing that sucks. But I'm not gonna lie, for overall productivity, for me, which is again emails, documents, spreadsheets, data, because I do a lot of stuff like that, and then also coding, Docker, desktop, VM, the list goes on. All these things, Mac does very well, and it's able to handle all of those things very well. And then on top of that, it has certain tools that I use that have been very optimized for Mac, and that makes it maybe a little bit more tougher to switch to another operating system. Um, but that's the reason why I use Mac as my primary driver. But I don't think Mac is better for coding, right? Keyword is coding, coding specific. I wouldn't say that it's better. I think it's better for overall productivity if you're gonna be doing other stuff. How I said documentation, using spreadsheets, the list goes on of PowerPoint, and then also coding and all these other tools. If you're gonna be doing that, maybe video editing, the list goes on, right? They're just all over the place doing a lot of different things. That is where I think Mac becomes very beneficial and does have the upper hand. But coding specific, that's what we're talking about. Coding, I code on Windows, I code on Linux, and I code on Mac. And personally, for me, if I would have picked it in a specific order, I would probably say Linux first, Mac second, then Windows last. But that being said, I'm not trying to say that it sucks coding on Windows, because it doesn't. Some people say that it does. I don't think it is in a ways. Not how it used to be. Not and for me, my main language is Python, obviously. So things are not that hard as it used to be. Years back, I think it was kind of challenging to get started with Python. Not no more. It's very easy on Windows. But I think the margin is very minimal. It's not like Linux is like way better and Mac is over here and then Windows down below. It's like literally Linux, Mac, and then Windows right below. They're all pretty equal for the most half. I feel like if I were to rank them, I just prefer Linux more from a preference when it comes to coding. Um, just because I could have hardware that's very minimal and I could still have a good coding experience, or I could have hardware that's very advanced. Um, and I could control that. I could put more RAM, put a faster CPU. I could do things like that, and so it gives me that flexibility. And then a lot of the tools like VS Code exists on Linux. Python obviously come pre-installed on Linux, so that's not an issue. It just you're ready to just get started. So there's a lot of stuff that's kind of ready to go out of the box. It works to install certain like IDE and things of that nature. Is very easy, to get going. Um, in like VS Code, it's literally just a button like the way you install from a app store or whatever. Just boom, install it. You're good to go. Right, very straightforward. So it's not challenging how it used to be like 10 years ago with dealing with Linux. It wasn't as easy, right? Things became a lot more simpler. And yeah, that's really the main reason, man. And I love that all of my Linux machines that I have used, I could literally leave that machine on for months, dude, months. Even when I had my workstation, Linux workstation in the past, dude, I had that bad boy on for a year without turning it off. Never wanted to slow down or nothing, dude. It was always smooth as butter, and I love it. Um, but Mac again has all of the benefits as well as Linux. Um, I would say when I got my Mac Studio, there were some I had to install Python, and I think a lot of it had to do with the M1 chip, right? The previous MacBook Pro that I had, which used an Intel chip, Python came pre-installed. But for the M1 chip, it wasn't pre-installed Python. I literally had to go and get that set up and download, and it was actually a bit pain in the ass to do, man. It wasn't that straightforward. Um, so that's my assumption that it's because of the M1 chip, anyways. Maybe that'll change obviously in the future, but I think initially it was related to the M1 chip. And then obviously Windows, dude, Windows has been pretty smooth for me when it comes to coding. I really can't say like nothing bad, I guess you could say. Um, I just for me, I just prefer Linux. That's the thing about it, man. I just have a preference for Linux. My issue with Windows is, again, I know we're talking about coding, but my issue with Windows, the operating system, is I can't leave it on for months. Did you leave it on for a month? A, it's gonna reboot it by itself, right? It's gonna reboot itself because there's an update before that. So I mean, there's no way you could last that long without restarting your computer. That's just one. B, it starts to run slow over time, especially if you're depending on what you're doing. But it holds on to applications in RAM. It seems like more than what it should, and you start seeing, or it just things starts to slow down. Right, the registry gets full, and then ultimately you gotta do a reboot to clear all that out. And I don't know, man. I think that it just feels like it's I just like having my machine being known I could leave it on 24/7, which I do. All my machines never turn off, and I could have it on for months and not worry about it. And Linux has never disappointed. I have always been able to do that with no issues. Mac, I could do that the majority of the time, but every once in a while it does kind of like push you, like nudge you, like, hey, you got to reboot updates. Windows, freaking damn Windows, that Windows will update for you even if you don't like it, which pisses me off, but that's a whole different issue. Either way, guys, at the end of the day, you could code in all three. I think it's very subjective, but for me, Linux, Mac, Windows is the way I would put it. But again, I code in all three languages every week. Um, and I don't have an issue with either one. I think you can code in any operating system, um, and it's not going to be an issue. So anybody that says that you cannot code in Windows doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. Anybody that says that you cannot code in Linux, that Mac is the only operating system to be coding on, doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. Dude, you can code in any operating system. I know that firsthand. You can. But all right, guys. So that's the end of the stream. Again, dude, stream got way out of whack. Started a little bit late, but then when I did start for about 30 minutes, I realized I wasn't broadcasting, which sucks. I don't know what the hell happened. That's a whole different issue. But I think I know next time I need to hit that go live button to actual publish the stream. So either way, guys, streams are back next Thursday. Again, tomorrow on Twitch, I'm going to be having my giveaway. So go ahead and join, man, if you can. I am the real Lou. That's my name on Twitch. I'll be streaming 8 p.m. Central Time, guys. 8 p.m. Central tomorrow on Twitch. So give me a follow if you can and join the stream. It's always fun. We're going to be gaming, having fun, talking tech. And again, guys, man, y'all take care. Y'all have a good one, and see y'all next time.